Most people think of Morocco or Egypt when they plan a trip to North Africa, but they are completely overlooking the biggest country on the entire continent. If you want to see ancient Roman cities that look like they were built yesterday, or sand dunes so big they have their own weather systems, you need to stop ignoring Algeria. Algeria is a giant. It is the largest country in Africa, but for a long time, it stayed off the radar for most travelers. That is changing fast. People are starting to realize that this place is like a time machine. You can walk through narrow streets that are hundreds of years old in the morning and stand on top of a volcanic mountain in the middle of the desert by sunset. But before you pack your bags, there are a few things you need to know. The weather here isn't just hot. It changes a lot depending on where you are. If you go to the north near the sea, it feels like Italy or Greece. But if you head south into the Sahara, you're in one of the hottest places on Earth. The best time to visit is usually between October and April. This way, you avoid the melting summer heat in the desert and the chilly rains in the mountains. Also, keep in mind that hospitality is a huge deal here. If someone offers you tea, say yes. It's not just a drink, it's how people show they are glad you're there. You'll hear a mix of Arabic, Berber, and French on the streets, so learning a few basic words like saha, which means thank you, will go a long way. Your journey almost certainly starts in Algiers, the capital city. People call it Algiers the White because of the bright white buildings that look out over the blue Mediterranean Sea. The first place you have to go is the Kasbah. This is the old part of the city, and it's a total maze. The streets are so narrow that two people can barely walk side by side. It is a UNESCO World Heritage Site, which means it is protected because it's so important to history. Walking through the Kasbah feels like being in a movie. You'll see kids playing soccer in tiny alleys, and craftsmen making copper pots by hand. It's easy to get lost, but that's actually the fun part. Just keep walking downhill, and you'll eventually find the sea again. Once you come out of the maze, look up. You'll see Notre Dame d'Afrique. This is a massive church built in a style called Neo-Byzantine. It sits on a cliff overlooking the Bay of Algiers. The coolest thing about this church is the message inside. It says, "Pray for us and for the Muslims." It's a beautiful symbol of how different cultures live together here. The views from the courtyard are the best in the city. You can see the entire harbor and the giant cargo ships coming in. For something completely different, head over to the Martyrs Memorial, or Maqam et-Shahid. This giant concrete monument looks like 3 palm leaves leaning against each other. It was built to remember the people who died during Algeria's fight for independence from France. It's huge, standing about 92 meters tall. At the base, there's an eternal flame and soldiers guarding the site. It's a very proud place for Algerians, and it gives you a real sense of how much they value their freedom. If you need a break from the noise of the city, go to the Jardin de Say du Hama. This is a botanical garden that was started all the way back in 1832. It's so lush and green that you'll forget you're in a big city. There are over 1,200 different types of plants there. Fun fact, some of the original Tarzan movies were filmed here because the trees look so wild and ancient. It's a great place to just sit on a bench and people watch. Finally, in Algiers, you have to see the Grand Post. It's the main post office, but it looks like a palace. It was built in a style called Neo-Moorish, which means it has lots of arches and beautiful tile work. Even if you don't have a letter to mail, go inside to look at the ceiling. The detail is incredible. It's right in the center of the modern part of the city, surrounded by cafes where you can grab a coffee and watch the world go by. One of the biggest surprises about Algeria is how many Roman ruins there are. Most of them are in better shape than the ones you find in Italy. Take Tapaza, for example. This is an archaeological park right on the coast. Imagine walking through old Roman temples and theaters while hearing the waves crash against the shore. It was originally a small trading post, but the Romans turned it into a major city. You can still see the old fish salting tanks and the ruins of the grand basilicas. It's a perfect spot for a day trip because you can explore the history and then go for a swim in the sea right next to the ruins. If you want to see what a Roman city actually looked like, you have to go to Timgad. They call it the Pompeii of Africa. When the Roman Empire was at its peak, they built this city for retired soldiers. They used a perfect grid plan, which means all the streets are straight and cross each other at right angles. From above, it looks like a giant chessboard. You can walk through the massive Trajan's Arch, sit in the 3,500-seat theater, and even see the old library. Because it was covered by the desert sands for hundreds of years, it stayed almost perfectly preserved. Then there is Djemila, which means beautiful in Arabic, and it really lives up to the name. It sits high up in the mountains. Unlike Timgad, Djemila isn't a flat grid. The Romans had to build it to fit the mountain slopes, so the layout is very unique. The Forum is huge, and the museum there has some of the most incredible mosaics you will ever see. These are giant pictures made of tiny colored stones that show scenes of hunting, gods, and daily life. They are thousands of years old, but still look bright and colorful. Before you leave the Roman history behind, stop at the Royal Mausoleum of Mauritania. This is a massive stone tomb that looks like a giant hill from a distance. It's the final resting place of Juba II and Cleopatra Selene II. Yes, that Cleopatra's daughter! It sits on a hill with a view of the Mediterranean, and it's covered in mystery because nobody is quite sure how the inside was originally designed. Now, we have to talk about the part of Algeria that covers 80% of the country, the Sahara Desert. This isn't just a big pile of sand. It's a place of deep culture and strange landscapes. A great place to start is the Mazab Valley, specifically the city of Gardaia. This area is home to the Mozabites, a group of people who have lived here for 1,000 years. They built 5 cities, called the Pentapolis, that look like nothing else on Earth. The houses are painted in bright blues and ochres, and they are built in circles around a mosque at the top of a hill. The people here are very traditional. You'll see women wearing white robes that cover everything but one eye. It's a very quiet, respectful place where life moves at a different pace. If you're feeling adventurous, head to Tassili National Park. This is a massive plateau that people call the Forest of Rock. The wind has carved the rocks into strange shapes that look like giant mushrooms or towers. But the real reason to go is the rock art. There are over 15,000 drawings and carvings on the cave walls. They show animals like giraffes and hippos, which proves that thousands of years ago, the Sahara was actually green and full of water. It's like the world's biggest outdoor art gallery. Further south, near the town of Tamanrasset, you'll find the Ahagar Mountains. These are jagged volcanic peaks that look like they belong on another planet. The most famous spot here is the Asakram Plateau. You have to take a 4x4 Jeep up a bumpy dirt road to get there, but it is worth it. There is a small stone house at the top where a famous monk named Charles de Foucauld used to live. People travel from all over the world to stay the night and watch the sunrise. When the sun hits those volcanic peaks, they turn bright orange and red. It is one of the most famous views in the entire desert. If you want the classic desert oasis experience, go to Timimauns. It's known as the Red Oasis because all the buildings are made of red mud and straw. The architecture is influenced by styles from Sudan. The town sits on the edge of a massive sea of sand dunes called the Grand Erg Occidental. You can walk out of your hotel and be standing on a sand dune in 5 minutes. The contrast between the red buildings, the green palm trees, and the golden sand is something you'll never forget. Algeria isn't just about ruins and sand. The cities along the coast are full of life. Oran is the second largest city, and it's often called the Radiant City. It has a very Spanish feel because it was under Spanish rule for a long time. You can visit the Santa Cruz Fort, which sits high on a hill overlooking the harbor. Below it, the city is famous for its music, especially Rai music, which is a mix of traditional sounds and modern beats. The streets are wide, and the seafood is incredible. Then there is Constantine, the city of bridges. This place will blow your mind. The city is built on a giant rock plateau that is split in two by a deep canyon called the Rumel Gorge. To get from one side of the city to the other, you have to cross these massive suspension bridges. The Sidim Sid Bridge is the most famous one. Walking across it can be a bit scary because it's so high up. But the view of the river flowing hundreds of feet below is spectacular. It's one of the oldest cities in the world, and you can feel the history in every stone. Further east is Annaba, a city surrounded by mountains and sea. The main attraction here is the Basilica of St. Augustine, which sits on a hill overlooking the ancient ruins of Hippo Regius. St. Augustine was one of the most important thinkers in history, and he lived and died here. The city itself has a very relaxed Mediterranean vibe with lots of beaches nearby. If you like hiking, you have to visit Bajaya. This city is located on the Gulf of Bajaya and is surrounded by the mountains of the Berbers. The best thing to do is hike up to Cap Carbon. It has one of the highest lighthouses in the world. The trail takes you along cliffs that drop straight into the turquoise water. You might even see some wild monkeys along the way. If you just want to relax, Mostaganem is the place to go. It's a coastal city known for its beautiful resorts and long sandy beaches. It's a popular spot for Algerian families to go on vacation, so it has a very friendly, happy atmosphere. It's the perfect place to eat some grilled sardines by the water and enjoy the sea breeze. For those who love the outdoors, Algeria has some incredible national parks. Djurdjura National Park is in the Kabylie region. The mountains here are rugged and covered in snow during the winter. It's a paradise for hikers and rock climbers. The people who live here are Berbers, and they have their own unique language and culture. The mountain villages are perched on the edges of ridges, and the scenery looks like the Swiss Alps, but with a Mediterranean twist. If you are in Algiers and want a quick escape, Creya National Park is only an hour away. It's located in the Atlas Mountains and is famous for its ancient cedar forests. In the winter, people actually go skiing here. In the summer, it's much cooler than the city, making it a great place for a picnic or a hike through the woods. Don't forget to visit the hot springs in Guelma, known as Hammam Mescoutine. The water here is so hot that people used to boil eggs in it. Over thousands of years, the minerals in the water have created giant, colorful calcified waterfalls. They look like frozen waves of orange and white stone. There are plenty of thermal baths where you can soak in the mineral water, which is supposed to be very good for your health. You can't really say you've visited Algeria until you've experienced the culture through your taste buds. The souks, or traditional markets, are the heart of every town. This is where you go to buy handcrafted carpets, silver jewelry from the Kabylie region, and beautiful pottery. The smell of spices like cumin, cinnamon, and saffron fills the air. It's a sensory overload in the best way possible. When it comes to food, couscous is the king. Every family has their own secret recipe. It's usually served with a rich vegetable stew and meat, like lamb or chicken. If you're lucky, you might get to try machui, which is a whole lamb roasted slowly over a fire until the meat just falls off the bone. For a quick snack, look for majuba. These are thin, flaky crepes stuffed with a spicy tomato and onion filling. They are cheap, delicious, and you can find them on almost every street corner. The most important social tradition in Algeria is the tea ceremony. Algerian mint tea is sweet, hot, and served with a lot of foam on top. It's usually accompanied by traditional sweets like makroud, which are date-filled semolina cookies dipped in honey. Sitting down for tea isn't just about drinking. It's about talking, sharing stories, and making friends. It is the ultimate sign of Algerian hospitality. Before you finish your trip, spend some time at the Museum of Antiquities and Islamic Art in Algiers. It ties everything you've seen together, showing how the different eras, Roman, Islamic, and Ottoman, all shaped the Algeria you see today. Algeria is a country that challenges you. It's not always the easiest place to travel, with the language barriers and the vast distances between cities. But that challenge is exactly why it's so rewarding. You aren't just a tourist here, you are a guest. Whether you are standing on a Roman bridge in Constantine or watching the stars in the middle of the Sahara, you'll realize that Algeria is one of the last true adventures left in the world. Check our video descriptions for the best deals in hotels and accommodation, flights, attractions and tours, travel eSIMs and insurance, transfers and airport services, trains and buses, car and bike rentals, cruises, package tours,